Hello and aloha from halfway around the world and the furthermost landmass to anywhere. Yep, Hawaii, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And I'm so fortunate to be on Woman Radio, broadcasting globally around the world. My show is all about empowering women and sharing knowledge, sharing information and life experiences that help all women and men who want to better understand our place in the world. Our overall sense of well-being and understanding really comes from a strong spiritual wellness place because spiritual wellness contributes to our physical wellness. Research has found that the two are very, very connected. Spiritual wellness provides us with systems of faith, with values, ethics, principles, and morals. A healthy spiritual place may include volunteering for that which you feel passionate about, social contributions you might make to others or organizations, belonging to a group where you find like-minded people, where you find fellowship, where you can gain optimism, where you can understand better what forgiveness really means and what expressions of compassion can look like. Spirituality is that state of having a connection to God or the spirit world or whatever your belief system recognizes as an all-powerful or more powerful essence than ourselves. Some people pray every day. Some people don't pray at all. But that doesn't mean you aren't a spiritual being. It is a concern for that which is unseen and intangible. It is not physical and it is not mundane. Spiritual character can affect women's health. Research shows a connection between your beliefs and your sense of well-being. Positive beliefs, comfort and strength that you can gain from meditation, prayer, your spiritual community can contribute to your well-being. It may even promote healing. Improving your spiritual health may not cure an illness, but it may help you feel better. The spiritual element of wellness can be the most personal piece of the puzzle. Most people like to live a life of meaning and purpose. And when those goals are met, it puts harmony in one's life and the others they surround themselves with. What can we do to improve our spiritual wellness? It really depends on the techniques that work for you. They can be different from those that work for me or other people you know, even your spouse or your children or your siblings. Spiritual wellness involves one's values, beliefs, and purpose. It can be achieved in several ways, both physically and mentally. And I'd like to share 7 of them with you. First, start by exploring your spiritual core. What does that mean? It means asking yourself, who am I? What is my purpose? What do I value most? These questions will lead you down a road where you will think more in depth about yourself and allow you to notice things about yourself that will help you achieve fulfillment. After you explore your spiritual core and make some discoveries, look for deeper meanings. Looking for deeper meanings in your life and then analyzing occurring patterns will help you see that you have control over your destiny. Being aware of this can help you achieve a happy and healthy life. Get it out. Expressing what's on your mind will help you to maintain a focused mind. I love to write, and after a long day or a significant event, I may feel great, I may feel confused, I may be able to make no sense at all of how I'm feeling. But by writing down my thoughts, I'm able to think clearer and move forward. Things in our head do not always look the same when they're on paper. There's a clarity to that process. Other physical techniques like yoga that can improve spiritual wellness because it reduces emotional and physical strains on the body and mind. Yoga is taught so many different ways, but the one thing we know it does is it helps to lower stress, to boost our immune systems, and lower blood pressure, as well as reduce anxiety, depression, fatigue, and insomnia. I know that one all too well. You can also travel. It's true. Take time for yourself to travel. You don't have to go far. Just go to somewhere that is a comforting place, somewhere new where your mind can wander and wonder. When you're at a place where your mind can keep out distractions, it will help you reflect and rest. You'll have a better connection with yourself, too. This allows you to weed out stressors and set your mind on the right path for overall wellness. If you do actually take a trip and go somewhere, make sure you exercise while you're there. Take a temporary vow of silence. Have you ever done that? It's hard to do, especially for outgoing personalities like myself. If you set short goals in the beginning, it's amazing what you will learn. 5 minutes, don't talk. Just don't speak. Then make it 10. Then make it 30. Sometimes you need to just take a vow of silence for one day. It's amazing how you can clear your head. When you eliminate negativity and reframe how you think of certain things and situations, you'll notice yourself being more relaxed. And then take time to meditate. That can look different to different people. But while managing your time and your daily tasks can often be very difficult, it's crucial that you devote some time to connecting with you, with yourself, whether it's in the morning when you wake up, maybe during a lunch break, or before you go to sleep. Take 5 to 10 minutes to meditate each day. Fitting meditation and relaxation into your lifestyle will free your mind and foster a stronger relationship with your own spiritual wellness. And that's what this is all about. The more spiritually well you are, the more physically well you can become. In our effort as women to achieve parity, equity, equality, wherever we are, this is what it takes.
And the world needs more girls like you growing up to lead our parliaments and our boardrooms and our courtrooms and our universities. We need you.
There was a time when women social activists asked men to stand up for their rights. But this time, we will do it by ourselves.
For too long, women have not been heard or believed if they dared to speak their truth to the power of those men. But their time is up.
Because I'm a woman. Phenomenal woman. All you women and me.
Yep, Michelle Obama, Malala Yousafzai, with whom I was privileged to receive the Ellis Island Medal of Honor, Oprah Winfrey, and finally our beloved Maya Angelou, a mother to all of us in so many ways. Bless her heart and soul. Now take my advice and take their advice and help yourself. Spiritual wellness for women allows us to become super women. And that's what we want to be. We have to be. Even Alicia Keys knows this.
Everywhere I'm turning, nothing seems complete. I stand up and I'm searching for the better part of me. I hang my head from sorrow so much. State of humanity. So wearing on my shoulders, gotta find strength in me. Why's that? 'Cause I am a superwoman.
Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. It is so wonderful to have you with me today. You're in for a real treat because my guest is Dr. Kikanza Nuri-Robins, someone I've known for a long time who is a fascinating, remarkable individual whose life is all about change making. Let me tell you a little bit about her before you hear from her. She is an organizational development consultant, which means she helps people and organizations that are in transition, whether they're schools, nonprofit organizations, government or faith-based organizations. She helps them be the best they can be. She is an advocate for justice, equity, and inclusion. Her entire career has been serving mission-driven organizations across the United States, whether it's New York Public Schools, Boston Public Schools, California schools, departments of education, departments of corrections, police departments, and even Girl Scouts of America. For 40 years, Kikanza has been a true advocate. Her focus is on sustaining healthy organizational cultures by improving communication, developing effective leaders, and aligning corporate values to daily practice. How are we going to gain parity from previous situations that have marginalized and eliminated others from opportunity? Wherever in the world Kikanza finds herself, it's one conversation at a time. Let me introduce you now to Kikanza Nuri-Robins. Welcome, Kikanza.
It's nice to be here with you.
It's great to have you with me. Your time is at such a premium, so I'm glad that you could spend some time with us. You told me once that you started your career thinking you would change the world. Well, how's it going?
How's the world?
Yeah, that's the true thing, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. I did think that I was going to change the world. And what I have come to understand is that I have some ability to change the corner of the world that I am in. And my focus is in this moment right now, one conversation at a time. Can I make a difference?
Well, you have made a difference. You've actually been awarded for the differences you've made. You received the very, very distinguished Ellis Island Medal of Honor that is given to only 100 Americans each year for their social justice and humanitarian work. You were voted a Woman of Vision in Business in Los Angeles by the city attorney. You've been $1 million author, and we're going to talk about your books, which I love. And you are part of the National Association of University Women. You are in their Hall of Fame. You've written so much about cultural proficiency. And one of my favorite books is Fish Out of Water and how you become culturally competent. You've lived this very non-traditional lifestyle during your 40 years as a consultant. I'd really like to know what motivated you to go into this field and how you got started, because you've done it in such a unique and creative way.
I didn't plan to be a consultant. I spent the first few years of my working life learning what I didn't want to do. I started out teaching school, and I learned that I didn't want to spend my days with small children and decided that they needed better than what I had to offer. And so I went back to school. I taught at the higher ed level. I taught undergrads. It was fun, but I was having more fun than they were. I realized I didn't have the temperament. I was too young, and I didn't have the temperament for academic life. And I learned this after the dean changed the grade that I had given to his next door neighbor without my permission. And I had no recourse. There wasn't anything I could do about that. I said I need to go find something else to do. I ended up working with a friend who had a grant to provide technical assistance during Los Angeles desegregation days.
What years would those be?
That was in the mid 70s. That was in the mid 70s and early 80s. It was great for me because I had a lot of freedom. I had 4 schools. We had staff meetings once a week. They didn't have office space for us, so I had to work out of my car. I worked at home. I had a desk at home, and I loved it. And I was able to use all of my skills. We had hostile audiences to win over. I was able to give demonstration lessons. I was able to work with the leaders. I was able to give my best to the kids, but I didn't have to be with them all day long. I got to be creative and collaborative, and I made a difference. I loved it. So when that grant was over, I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work. I'm going to teach, because I knew I was a good teacher, but I didn't find the right students. I teach adults. So I thought I was going to be an education consultant, and ended up working for nonprofits and working for government. I have never looked back. It has been just an absolutely wonderful life, knowing that freedom was really, really important, the most important thing to me, freedom and creativity. I convinced myself that I was unemployable, and I kept finding work. I kept finding work, and then work started finding me. So I am grateful and fortunate, because at this point in my career, all of my work comes through word of mouth. The phone keeps ringing, and I'm just grateful for that.
Who motivated you? Who helped you on your way to the success that you have enjoyed after 40 years of helping others?
Well, the people who motivated me were the people who helped me realize I don't want to work here. I don't want to work for you. I don't want to work in this place. I don't want to work in this kind of institution. And the people who helped me were people who I identified that were doing something that I wanted to do, or they were doing something that I admired. After I decided I was going to be a consultant, I looked around at the consultants I knew. I looked around at people who were doing things that I admired, and I called and asked, can I buy you a cup of coffee? I would like an hour of your time. I want to pick your brain. Everyone that I asked was more than gracious and very, very, very generous with their time. And they gave me lots of advice and lots of support. Every time I talk to someone, I say, is there someone else that I should talk to? Give me one piece of advice that I should do right now and something to think about for later. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And so that's how I got help.
So let's recap this, because I think it's really important that everybody learns that strategy. You looked at who you wanted to be like, correct?
I looked at people who were doing things I admired. I asked them, I need help. I want to be a consultant. Do you have some advice for me? May I ask you some questions? How did you get to do what you do? How did you get this contract? How did you get into this organization? How did you learn what to say in the situation that I saw you in? What is it that gives you the confidence as you speak to a group? I asked them what I wanted to learn.
Young people, I hope you're listening to this, because this is just a grand free lesson in how to network, get to know people you need to know, and find out what the real deal is about what you think you might want to do. Wow, that is just fantastic, Kikanza.
I think it's also important to continue to do that. I call them relationship conversations. Networking is not a term that we use a whole lot anymore, but it is networking. It's putting yourself out there. The best networking that I did as I was building my consulting practice was, I want people to remember my name. I want people to remember me. And I'm not asking anyone for a job, for a contract in the moment. But when you have a problem, I want you to think of me. And now what I try to do is, and I'm very, very introverted. I love being at home. And you know that I don't love answering the phone. I do it because it's part of the job. You know, every job has fun parts and not so fun parts, but relationship conversations are important. And even in this time of isolation, I push myself to connect with people. We have a new president at the college that I attended. There have been a number of meet and greets where we could go and meet him. And I didn't want to do that, but I forced myself to go. As it turned out, I had a client that was the former employer of this person. And I found out that he had background information that I needed for this other client. So I was able to call him and say, can I have 15 minutes? I have one question I'd like to ask you, please. And he did. And we talked for half an hour, and that's all there was. Another woman crossed my mind that I had met a few years ago, and I reached out. I sent her an email and I said, hello, you came into consciousness and wanted to say hello, wondering if you have 15 minutes that we could schedule and have a cup of coffee with me. We're going to have coffee over Zoom. I'd like to get to know you a little better. And so I plant seeds. I want people to remember me so that when they do have a need, they'll call me.
That is just such good advice, good information, good advice, which you are, of course, always full of wisdom. And you have shared with me so many gems. But I'd like my listeners to know a little bit about your very non-traditional lifestyle, a little bit about how you were raised, your family, what happened with college, what happened in the days of the United States Revolution in contemporary society, the 60s.
Well, I grew up in a military family, and it was very disciplined, very formal, very controlled. And we went to church every Sunday. I went to school every day. My mother didn't allow her children to get sick. They all had perfect attendance. And by the time I was a senior in high school, I was a little tired of that. And I knew I was going to college, and most of the classes I was taking were fine. The teachers knew me. Everybody trusted me. I was a star in student government. So I would tell one teacher that I was going to go do one thing, and I'd tell another teacher I was going to go do something else. I played hooky by going down the road to the community college and hanging out with my boyfriend and the other kids that were already in college. That was my big escape, to play hooky. Also got involved in politics, and I got involved in social activism, and I got involved in trying to make a huge change in the world. So when I did go to college, I ended up living on a commune for a couple of years and going to school in my spare time. But the one thing that I knew for sure was that I had to graduate. So whatever else I did, I wasn't a stellar student, but I did finish. I do wish that I had taken more of advantage of what the college was offering to me. I finished and I got my degree. My non-traditional lifestyle is I'm not married. I chose not to have children. I have two women who call me mom, and I'm very grateful for their love. I work out of my home. I like being alone. I curate friends. I am careful about my volunteering. I do volunteer. I work really hard. I make sure I schedule time to be with myself, to read, to listen to books on tape, to do the thing I love more than anything else, and that is to sew. I'm very creative. I have the good fortune of having a studio in my home. So during these COVID times, one end of the house is my office, and then I'll walk to the other end of the house and work on something creative with my hands.
Oh my goodness, your studio. Huh. It is a tactile person's dream, because I've been in it and I just love going through her closets full of fabrics, of which she will make an incredible outfit. And I mean, we're talking Vogue, ladies. We're talking special stitching. We're talking about stuff that I wouldn't even think about doing if I were going to hem something. But
I can't wait for you to see what I'm working on now.
Oh, I hope I will be able to. Now, you are in Los Angeles and I am in Hawaii, so it will have to wait until I actually get to you, and I'm so looking forward to that. People around the world have now discovered what Kwanzaa means to the African American culture and society. You were there at the beginning of Kwanzaa. Can you just take a minute, tell us how that happened? How were you a witness to history?
Well, it was when I was up in the commune in the foothills of Los Angeles. I was part of US organization, which was founded by Maulana Ron Karenga, and he is the founder, the creator of Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa was created as an alternative to Christmas. Many people celebrate Christmas and Kwanzaa, which is fine. Kwanzaa is not a spiritual holiday, it's a communal holiday. Although people have taken the principles of Kwanzaa and taken the symbols of Kwanzaa to make personal meaning. If I asked you, how do you celebrate Christmas? If I asked 5 different people, they'd say 5 different things, because families create traditions for making meaning of the holiday. Some people would spend it in church. Some people would spend it at the mall. Some people would spend it with family. For some, it's food. For some, it's decorations. And that's what Kwanzaa has come to mean for many people. It's a time for gathering of family and friends and community. It's a time for remembering core values that are shared with others. It's a time for celebrating the end of the year. It's a time for remembering commitments. It's a time for rewarding children for their good work, for their accomplishments, and for having kept commitments that they have made throughout the year.
Kwanzaa has been very special. I've spent several Kwanzaas with you. Can you tell our listeners what it is that you do to make your salon, your Kwanzaa gathering so wonderful?
As you know, Kwanzaa is a 7-day holiday, which is wonderful, kind of like Hanukkah. So there are enough days so that you can celebrate with family, you can celebrate with friends, you can celebrate with those other friends. For me, I try to do all of those things. And then the last night of Kwanzaa is the 31st, the end of the year, which we call New Year's. Some of us call it Old Year's Night, New Year's Eve. And so traditionally, the last night of Kwanzaa is a huge karamu, a large feast, a large party. So when I was a young woman, we would sew and make fabulous outfits, and we would cook and cook and cook, and we would stay up all night singing and dancing and eating and celebrating and reciting poetry and having singers and dancers. The boot dancers and the Zulu dancers would all be doing wonderful performances for us. And what I do in my home is much, much quieter, but it follows that same tradition. I have a table for 12, no more than 12. So I start getting requests early in the year. There is a theme, and I invite people to bring a performance, to bring a reading, to bring a quotation, to bring a song, so that we can sit and talk, and we can share, and we can eat, and we can bring in the new year together.
I have been so privileged to be one of those 12 so many times. And let me tell you, we solve the world's problems right there and then. We do. If only
the world would ask.
To us. Oh my gosh, there's so much more to talk about with you, Kikanza. I love what you do and how you do. And when we come back, we're going to talk about fish out of water and some other wonderfully entertaining and some heavy things you'll all want to hear. Don't go away. We'll be right back with Womanocity for Women with Curiosity on Woman Radio.
Time has come for women of the world to engage. With technology on our side, all is possible. It really doesn't matter which part or corner of the world you are. My name is Yvonne Chaka Chaka. Catch me live on Woman Radio, where I'll be engaging with women of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, every Friday from 12 noon South African time to 2 p.m. Catch me on the couch.
Meet me at the party on the couch. You can come.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Lindy K, and I'm just asking you to join me every Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock for the interview. Let's get inspired. Only on Women Radio.
Find us on Instagram at Woman Radio SA, Twitter, Woman Radio SA, Facebook, Woman Space Radio, and also WhatsApp us +2784 092 990. Woman spelled WOMAN. Well-organized man, for we are.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here with Kikanza Nuri-Robins. She is a good friend of mine and someone who is so very special in this world, doing great things to make the world a better place. So many of us are unique. We are nonconformists. We are different. Certainly, I fall into that category. And you wrote a book that I love called Fish Out of Water. And I'm a fish out of water. And I think many people who are listening are fish out of water. We don't always fit in. We're a little bit different. Sometimes the differences are extremely obvious, and sometimes they're very subtle, but we're not all the same.
I have been in search of my tribe for a long time. I have always been the different one. And when I was a child, I was teased and marginalized because I was different. Then as I matured and realized that, yeah, I am different, but I don't know anyone that I want to be like. I like who I am. So I learned to like me. And I also learned where I could best make a difference and how I could make myself comfortable in environments. So I know that I'm a truth teller. I know that everyone doesn't appreciate a truth teller. And I know that I'm an introvert. So I know that many kinds of social engagements I'm not comfortable in. I learned how to do small talk. I learned how to make people comfortable around me. And I also learned that I can be most effective and most comfortable sitting on the edge of the group, sitting on the edge of the room and observing and making comments when necessary, but mostly keeping quiet, engaging in a way that is comfortable for me, but doesn't take up a lot of space unless I am invited in to be the center of attention as the speaker or the presenter or the teacher. As a consultant, many times I'd go into an organization and I'd work with a manager who was really struggling with the culture of the organization, or who was really struggling trying to fit in to the way they did things there. So we would talk and I would say, well, you know, what you're expected to do is this and this and this. You know that every Friday, all the managers go out and they have a drink before they go home. You know that every Wednesday, everybody eats together and they have pizza. Well, I don't like pizza and I don't drink. But the point is not what you're eating or drinking. The point is being a part of the group. And then there were ways of doing business within that particular organization. I would help them understand, if you want them to like you, if you want to fit in, these are the things you need to do. But you also need to make a choice. Are doing these things going to make you happy, or do you need to find a place where you can be more comfortable and be more of yourself and not have to try to follow the restrictions of the people who are here? So sometimes the people said, oh, I didn't know that mattered, or I didn't know that made a difference. Sure, I can do that. Other times people would say, you know what? I don't want to do that. If I have to do that in order to be here, I don't want to be here. And I say, good for you, because there is a job for everyone, but every job is not for every person. So what I do in my work is to help organizations clarify what their norms are, what their organizational values are, so people know this is a place for this kind of people, and help people to get clear on what's important to them so you can find a place where you can fit and you don't have to be a fish out of water.
Overcoming being a fish out of water is so important for so many of us. And I'm still working on my being a fish. I swim a little faster now and I can endure stronger waves. But I tell you, I think I'm always going to be a fish. Now, you did something late in your life that many people don't do. You became a minister. You had a calling. Tell us a little bit about what was the calling and why, after so many years of doing other things, did you pursue seminary?
I wanted to make churches safer places for people. That's a short answer. The long answer is that I've always been curious and I've always been interested in things spiritual. And I was exposed to several different spiritual paths at a young in high school. I was exposed to the Baha'i faith. I was exposed to and learned about Taoism. I knew something about Christianity. And in my mother's house, the rule was you go to church, you go to Sunday school, or you don't go anywhere for a social life. So I went to Sunday school with my brother so that we could get in and get out and have time for a social life. One day I came home and my mother asked me what happened in church. And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, what happened in Sunday school? What were they talking about?" I don't know. I was 16. How could I possibly care enough to remember? She said, "Well, the superintendent called me and she said that your questions were disturbing the other students. So if they can't answer your questions, I guess you don't have to go." So that became my pivot point in being given permission to explore different faith traditions. And it also was a point of trauma in that the church had kicked me out. As I matured and had more experiences with church and religious organizations, I realized that the work that I was doing as an organization development consultant would be useful in churches. I wanted to make churches healthier and safer places for humans. My therapist, by the way, told me that was rather ambitious. And so,
Well, it might have been ambitious, but have you been anything other than ambitious? You were out to make a change in this world and nothing was going to stop you. In your ministry, which I know is very unusual in itself, what is the main message you try to convey to your congregations?
oh, I don't go with the message. My job. Let me back up to say that I went to seminary because I presented myself to churches and I didn't have church language. I didn't have church experience. I wasn't involved in church. And so they didn't see me as being credentialed or qualified to teach them anything. So I went to seminary and I learned scriptures in 3 dead languages. And I learned the theology. I learned all the stuff that ministers are supposed to learn. And since I was learning so much, I said, well, I'm not doing this without a degree. So I got a degree and then I jumped through the other hoops and got ordained. And so what I do with faith-based organizations is help them to get clear about what is important to them. And my message is to anyone, it's the same as in a secular organization. If this is what you believe, then this is what your behavior needs to look like. And so I help people to align their values with their behavior. I am not there to win souls for anybody. I'm there to help people to get clear about their values and what that looks like on a daily basis.
In all you've done, Kikanza, whether it was education, organizational consulting, development, becoming a minister, an ordained minister, and then most recently you've become a death doula. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is correct. I didn't really become a doula. I I had already been doing the work. I learned the name for what I had been doing.
And I had never heard the term death doula ever. And so I want to talk about that because I knew about birth doulas, women who come and help mothers deliver their babies, but a death doula really made my head spin because I had to really think about it. I had not done that. So tell me about being a death doula.
Many folks in that field, some call it end of life doula, other call it death doula. Death doula is easier to say. A doula is someone who attends to the emotional needs of a transition. So the birth doula works with the midwife in attending to the baby and the family as new life is coming into the world. The death doula, end of life doula, does the same thing at the other end of the spectrum. The death doula works with the dying and works with their family to attend to the business of dying and death. So a death doula, some come out of hospices, some are nurses and they work in hospitals, some come out of being a chaplain. Not many come out of being a minister or a parish minister at any rate. These are people, and I would say primarily women, who are comfortable with death, who recognize that death is as natural as birth and that death is more guaranteed than birth is. We absolutely guarantee you that if you're born, you're going to die. We have no guarantees that anyone is going to be born. And so what we are trying to do is make it natural so that people embrace it and talk about it, are not afraid of it, and do the work that's necessary to have a good death.
Well, what is the work?
The work is coming to terms with who you are, coming to terms with your history, with your legacy, with reconciling with friends and family, with reconciling with yourself, with taking care of your list. Sometimes there is this bucket list, attending to things on your bucket list or moving things from your bucket list to your forget it list so that these are things I don't need to do or even worry about anymore. It is also recognizing, okay, I have 4th stage lung cancer. I can spend the next X number of months working really hard to stay alive and fight and prolonging my death. Or I could take a different road of treatment and spend the next months of my life with my family, with my friends, writing, doing something that is deeply meaningful to me. I can spend that time in preparing my family for my absence, for creating a wonderful ceremony. I can have a funeral, a celebration of my life before I die. I can lay out the plans for what would happen after I die. So there are lots of things that happen. The death doula also works with the families. So one of the things that I do a lot of is working with the adult children of my friends as they die and helping them mediate between family and friends and family and church and helping the young people tend to their parents and make those tough decisions. Also with my friends, as their spouses die, a wife will say, I want to be a good wife. I don't want to kill him, but I know he's ready to die. Should I tell the doctor to go ahead and give him palliative care instead of this aggressive treatment that just is extending his pain? So it's those kinds of things. I think what drove me to this work really was my work on the bioethics committee at the large university hospital here in Los Angeles.
What did you do in that role of being a member of bioethics? That's a very heavy subject.
It really is. And so I've been on this committee for over 20 years. And this is the committee that makes life or death decisions when the patient can't speak for themselves, or when the patient and the healthcare team are at odds with one another. And so we make decisions about extending care and about withdrawing care, about the moral distress a treatment may be causing the nurses because they know it's futile care and it's hurting the patient, but the family insists. We mediate and talk with the families and help them to make better decisions about what they need to do for their family members. Years ago, some politicians said, these are death committees. Well, yeah, we are. We're life committees too. And so we talk about not the legal aspects of death and dying and healthcare, but the moral ethics of death and dying and healthcare. And we help to bring to light what are the best decisions to make given the goals of medicine and the goals of family and the goals of the patient. It's that training that helped me and led me to be really comfortable with death. And that's what led me into this work as a doula.
And that's a very special set of values and personality that can do this work, because I don't think it's meant for everyone, but it's a value to everyone for sure. Life is about birth and death, and you're absolutely right. We are not guaranteed we're going to be born, but we are guaranteed we are going to die. So you want to die right. You want to die right. We'll be right back on Woman Radio. listen to the wisdom and the advice of elder women and midlife women who can help you as you mature and catch up with the rest of us. Sometimes older women are called crones. Kikanza Nuri-Robins is our guest, and sometimes she will call herself a crone. Kikanza, please explain this.
I'm old. I'm an old woman. An old woman is a crone.
Yeah,
A crone is an old, wise elder. So when I reached a point in life where I had questions and there wasn't anyone older than me to answer my questions, my mother was dead, my grandmothers were dead, my aunts were dead. All I could see were people who were in my age group. They looked like me. They were as old as I was, and we wanted help. So I put out a call. As I did as a young person, I looked at people who were doing things that I admired. I looked at people who might have answers to questions that I didn't have, and I invited them to come talk. I said, I'm calling a circle of the crones. And most of the women in the circle didn't like the name. I said, we have to embrace this stage of life. We have to embrace the fact that we are indeed the elders now, and we have to figure out what the answers are, or we have to share with one another the answers we have already figured out. We had some wonderful, wonderful conversations. Some women said, no, I'm going to go hang out and play tennis with my young folks. And others said, yeah, I think that this is a good thing. So we sit, it's a salon, and we sit and talk about the world and the things that are going on in the world through the lens of being an elder, being a wise woman, being the white-haired sage in the circle.
Have you ever invited younger women to join you to listen to what you have to say to them?
No, not in the Crohn's meeting. I have gathered throughout my life young women. I call them my scouts, but I have always gathered young women to talk, to share, to do the same thing. So I would have 20 something teas and 30 something teas and come talk about what it means to be 50 something. I facilitated for these younger women. What I did in gathering the crones together was to facilitate the same kind of circle for myself, for my own age group.
These group discussions, whether it's, by decade or however you decide to choose your window of age criteria, they are very meaningful. What do you think happens when you have a group discussion and you focus on a specific topic? How do you think that helps to mentor young women or any woman of any age, actually, and even men? I mean, I'm not excluding men, but we are talking about women. There is meaning in group discussions. What is revealed?
Oh, it depends on the questions.
Give me an example of some of the questions you've gotten and how you handled them.
It depends on the questions in the sense of being willing to go deep, being willing to be serious, being willing to share your story, being willing to be vulnerable. If we keep the questions light and frivolous, like what's your favorite color, then that's what the conversation is going to be like, and that's where it'll stay. But if you ask a question like, what advice would you give your younger self? And then take the time and practice the discipline of listening and not jumping in and interfering or butting in or interrupting somebody's story or in trying to fix them or giving advice. That's one of the main rules with the crones. No unsolicited advice, no trying to fix anyone. They tell their story. That's what gives us the depth. So the learning comes in the reflection, the experience. We don't learn from our experience. We learn from our reflection on our experience. So each of us has experienced life. Most of us don't take the time to reflect on the experience called life. So my questions will focus on a particular point, a particular aspect of your life, and ask you to reflect on that. So the learning comes in the telling and in the listening. When I listen to your story, I can hear messages that inform my own story. And that's why the salons work so well, because it is focused, disciplined discourse. It's not for everyone. Some of my dearest friends don't come. They say it sounds too much like school, sounds too much like work. And that's fine, because remember, there's a place for everyone, but every place is not for everyone. And I would rather them not come than come and be disruptive, or come and say, well, you can't tell me I can't talk right now, or I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about this. So the people who come want to be there, and the people who come want to tell their stories. It's not group therapy. It is life lessons, life reflections.
So can you repeat the rules for the listeners who want to have a salon, be a crone for a moment or a day? What are the rules of the gathering again?
For a salon, the rules are you come on time and you stay for the whole thing. You may need to set a time frame of 2 hours. When I do it on Zoom, it's just 2 hours, 2.5 hours with a break, because people need to understand you're not coming just for the food, and you're not coming just to share, just to say something. You're also coming to listen. And it changes the dynamics of the group if people are coming in or out, or if they leave early. So you come and you stay. It's disciplined discourse. You stick to the topic. You focus on the theme. If you're asked to bring a reading or a poem or something, you bring something, which means that you have thought about the topic before you come. You don't interrupt. You don't try to fix people. You don't give unsolicited advice.
Those are good rules for a lot of gatherings, a lot of meetings, whether it's a salon with a group or just between two people listening to try and resolve an issue with one another. Thank you. That is just such great advice. You have said many times that you are a gatherer in work and social life. What is it? Who is it that you gather?
I gather the crones. I gather my friends for Kwanzaa. I gather people for the salon. I gather the young women for the 20-something tea and the 30-something tea. I gather my clients in an environment where they can sit and talk with one another. Same thing, sit and listen to understand, listen to make a difference right here in this place. Listen with your heart.
Absolutely. That's not always easy for us to do, because sometimes our hearts are broken and they need mended. Sometimes our hearts are wounded and they need to heal. What do you
Yes, you're
do?
absolutely right. And if you're listening with your brain instead of your heart, then your heart's not going to hear what it needs in order to heal.
Indeed, you are a gatherer of some pretty remarkable people that I have met through you, with you, among these salons. Although I have yet to come to a crone salon, because, girl, I am no crone. And if I do become one, I will lie and deny it.
That's
So,
why you haven't been invited.
so in your gathering, something that you also do that I would have never thought about is you have what are called studio dates. Now, you have this magnificent sewing studio in your home. It's just beautiful. I can't even describe how cozy it is, how comfortable it is. Big table, lots of fabrics. There's that beautiful sewing machine. And you invite other women who sew. I don't even want to say seamstress, because that almost makes it less than what you do. Designers, creators. people who have an ability with a sewing machine that they can make magic come from it. That's what you do. And when you have these studio dates, what happens? Who comes?
Well, you don't have to sew to come. I have one friend who does needlepoint and she'll come. The point of a studio date is that I have friends who want to see me and I have a heart who wants to sew. I will invite my friends to come to the studio and visit while I create. Please bring something that you can work on too. As a gatherer and being fortunate, living alone and having a lot of discretionary space. And let me be really clear, I do not live in a mansion. I live in a modest home for a family, but I'm a family of one. So it's a lot of space for one person.
And
And
it's a
so,
beautiful space. And it may not be a mansion, but it looks like it could be a mini mansion.
well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm glad you feel the expansiveness and
I
the
just-
welcome of my space.
And the
So
detail of your space. I mean, when you were designing your home, you had so much detail that everywhere you look is a place of beauty. Even the closet has paintings, but even the baseboard, even the board around the ceiling, it's all beautiful. It's just
thank you.
you have that eye when people come into your home, and I think you probably know this from the compliments you always get. We love being there and we don't want to leave. And very often we have had to be kicked out because we don't want to go. And I always relish my opportunity to spend the night.
My home is important. It's a sanctuary for me. And everybody is not invited because everyone doesn't respect the space. And you're absolutely right. I have spent hours and hours and hours being very intentional about everything in my home, including the key fob for the door to open the door. It needs to reflect who I am, and it needs to reflect what I believe and what's important. And the colors also have to look good on me and around me.
But you see, you are all those things. You are a comfort maker. You are a nurturer, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. It's so hard for me to see you as an introvert because you are so out in the world. What I would say is your home in all of its detail, right down to the inlaid wood in certain places going in a particular direction, it reflects your perfection, your beauty, your desire to make things right and correct and balanced. And that's something that I've noticed that you have done all your life, whether it's the salons, it's how you make life meaningful for others, because it's not just about how we help you when we come or help, your teas or your ladies or the crones. It's what you do for the rest of us. Just being there to give a place and a space for others to gather and think deeply and not have superficial conversations and not do fluff and not do BS, but talk about what's real in the world, real in life, and real ways to deal with them. Not just talk about it, but talk about what you're going to do about it.
Thank you. Thank you, Tati. I appreciate you hearing that. And you have been instrumental in a number of the gatherings. You didn't know it, but you planted the seed, or you said, well, why don't you invite me over and we can invite so and so and so and so and so and so. And so I had to make meaning from that guest list that you created. And that's what I did. So I appreciate you for having planted the seed that allowed me to create something that we both enjoy.
Oh my goodness, thank you. I did not know that. My gosh, that is a delightful surprise. How about this? What say we just recap to tell younger women how to have the gatherings that makes them meaningful? There's rules, ladies, don't forget. Let's see, what were they? No talking, no interrupting. So write this down, ladies, because young women, this is a great habit to be in. You will learn so much. And again, this is part of your exposure, people getting to know you. If you want to build your branding, if you want to market, hey, this can help too.
First of all, you have to be intentional about the guest list. So just because you know them, just because you love them, doesn't mean that they are right for this particular gathering. So I guess, first of all, you need to be clear, what is the intention of the gathering? Secondly, then be very, very intentional about who gets invited. You don't have to invite everyone. And then you make sure that you limit the number of people that you gather. So if you want to have a conversation, then you need to have 10 people, 5 people, 3 people. And you might want to practice. Start with just 3 people, 3 or 4 people, and then expand it perhaps. So it's not a large number, because a large group of people can't have a conversation. You want to think about the space that you create. And so it may be a circle in your living room. It may be around your eating table, but you want to make the space to be inviting and not distracting. If you're going to have food, make sure that the food is not the point of the gathering. Make sure that people understand why they're coming, and they're coming for a conversation. So that may mean that you create an invitation that is beautiful, that is different, and that is clear about your intent. If you are having food, make sure that you have dishes that you can prepare ahead of time and serve with ease, so that you're not running back and forth to the kitchen all evening, so that you can participate and facilitate the conversation. You have to lead the group, and like a shepherd, you say, we're going to talk about, no, we're not going to talk about that. You've got to share the air. You've used up your quotient of conversation. It's time for you to listen. Let someone else talk right now. If you can't be brave enough to say these things to your friends, you either have the wrong people in the room, or you need to work on your own courage so that you can do that. And then have a theme, have a simple question, just one question that for people to respond to, not a yes or no question, but a question that invites people to tell a story. Then, in response to the story, you don't need to encourage people to say, oh, well, that's so wonderful. Or, well, you turned out just fine. Just let people tell their stories. No fixing, no advising, no trying to make it better, no interrupting. You let people tell the story. That's another reason why you need to create a careful question, and you also need to limit the number of people there so that you don't run out of time and everyone gets a chance to share their story. You might even need to say, all right, so everyone's going to have 5 minutes. You have to be disciplined, and you have to help your guests to be disciplined.
Okay, young women, and that's young women from age 0 to 100. Did you get those rules? Please have a salon, and please let me know how it goes. info@womanradio.co.za. Make sure I hear about it. And I will tell Kikanza too.
I would love to hear.
Yeah, I know you would. So let's do this. Okay, here's your homework, listening audience. Have a salon. You've got the rules. You know what to do now. Please let me know what it was about and how it worked out. And then I will give that feedback to Kikanza and keep them going and teach others how to give them as well. We'll be right back. Woman Radio.
What does it mean to be a human being? What is truth? And does this even matter? Join me, Kabaza Deba, on Woman Radio every Thursday between 6 and 7 p.m. as I interview complex and multifaceted guests on what their worldview is and how they answer questions around origin, identity, meaning, morality, and destiny. My intention is just to get you thinking. Why? Well, it depends. It depends on whether the truth matters. Here on Woman Radio, for we are.
You know, I have sung this song for many years, but I don't think I really understood the words until a dear friend passed away without warning and forever. So, if there are words you have to say to someone dear, say them now. For as the song says, tomorrow may never, never come. For all we know, we may never meet again. Before you go, make this moment sweet again. We won't say goodnight until the very last minute. I will hold out my hand, and my heart will be in it. For all we know, this may only be a dream. We come, we go, like a ripple on a stream. So love me tonight. Tomorrow was made for some. Tomorrow may never, never come. For all we know.
And we're back. I'm sure you enjoyed Carmen McRae singing For All We Know, because it's true. For all we know, life can change, life can get better, and that's what we hope this show will do for you, our listeners. Can you share a story of one of the happiest moments in your life?
When my dearest friend agreed to write a book with me.
And was that Fish Out of Water?
Yeah, that was Fish Out of Water. And so the year we spent writing that book was a real joy and a gift, because he died shortly after it. We got to spend the best parts of ourselves with each other in that year.
Very sorry that you lost such a great collaborator, a good friend. Oh my goodness. Kikanza, tell me this. What are your messages to the younger women who are listening to this program? What would you tell them about falling in love, how to spend their time, what to do to get them to their goal?
I would say fall in love with yourself first. learn what you love first, find something to be good at and do that. And if you don't know what you want to be good at, what are you interested in? What are you passionate about? What are you curious about? Become an interesting person, and then you can attract an interesting person.
Those are really good points. Isn't it true? It's so easy. We grow up, we're socialized to little girls that you're going to grow up and get married. Not necessarily you're going to grow up and go to college and you're going to be a great scientist or you're going to be, an astronaut. It's the emphasis on marriage throughout the Western world and certainly throughout the developing world is sometimes the only way out, the only option you have, because school might not be an opportunity. You may not have that privilege. So you look for a husband. So what would you say you should look for in a husband? You have any answers for that?
No, I don't. I would say that marriage is highly overrated, and that if that's your goal, you need another goal.
Okay, so young ladies, you need another goal other than just getting married. And I think you know that in your gut, and you have to trust it. Getting married cannot be the best alternative, although sometimes it is the only alternative. So then you have to figure out what to do with that man that you chose, or in some circumstances was chosen for you. How do you manage that? How do you handle that? I think from what we've heard Kikanza talk about, there's several aspects she's mentioned that could be very useful. One is being able to communicate and let the man know your boundaries, your preferences, what you will and won't tolerate. It's not easy. Kikanza said it's overrated. And I think to most people who have been divorced, you will get that answer. It is overrated, but it is what it is. And if you want to have a family, it's probably the easiest thing to have a spouse, because doing it alone is quite difficult from all of those of us who have done it alone. If we can't find the perfect man, but we know how to be the perfect woman by developing ourselves first and foremost, beyond trying to help somebody else be their best. You are such an exceptional cook in the kitchen. Shall I tell about the New Year's Eve, Old Year's Night dinners where you have a 12-course meal on crystal with silver, on china? I mean, the whole schmagegi, the full 10 yards of classical dining. And oh my God, Kikanza just cooks so well. I don't know if you cook better than you sew or sew better than you cook.
I sew better than I cook.
You do? And you cook
I do.
incredible. Oh my gosh.
Yes, but I only serve what is edible.
But when you sew, I mean, you can take a Vogue pattern and just whip it out. I find Vogue patterns impossible to do. Where did you learn to sew and when?
I've always known how to sew. I started sewing my own clothes when I was 13. I got my first machine when I was 13. And my godmother, who is my sewing mentor, said that before my mother allowed me to use needle and thread, that I would drape my dolls and I would fasten them with safety pins.
Oh my goodness.
So it's definitely a gift.
So you knew that you wanted to do that. It's too bad you couldn't make that as your work, because you've designed some incredible outfits, especially your Afrocentric church robes. They are pretty gorgeous. I'm telling you, between kente cloth and other remarkable design fabrics, some of which I have inherited and been thrilled with. There's also some incredible jewelry. There's one piece I have to steal, but I'll wait till I come over. You are known for your panache. You are known that when you show up, people see you. It's not that you just want them to remember your name. They see you because you are decorated. You have beautiful clothes on with great detail in the clothing. And then these big, great, gorgeous jewelry pieces that you can pull off because you have a look. You are gorgeous with your close cropped salt and pepper fro.
You're very kind. Thank you.
Gorgeous. I wish you would be my size so I could use your clothes and take them. Be happy to help you clean your closet. That's for sure. Okay, so Kikanza, surprise question. If you could choose the perfect climate to live in, would it be tropical, snow, desert, or mountains?
I would spend autumn in New England. I would spend winter in Southern California. I would spend summer in San Francisco, and I would work in the spring.
You would work in the spring, out of your house, of course. If you had one superpower more than the ones you already have, which one would you choose?
Teleportation.
Oh, God, yes. Wouldn't that be great? Just to teleport ourselves like the old Star Trek. If you could tell the leaders of the world one thing and only one thing, what would it be?
Go home.
Oh my gosh. Okay. If you could teach one person a single thing, what would it be?
Speak up.
Oh, yes. And what's your favorite chocolate?
I like Hershey's dark cocoa powder and the things that I can make with it.
Oh, I see. What can you make with it?
Dark chocolate pudding.
Would you make cocoa with it too?
No, most probably bake or make some kind of dessert.
If you could change one thing to make life easier for the children of the world, Dr. Nuri-Robins, what would it be?
I would make sure that every child had food to eat, a roof over their heads, and health care.
That's three things, but they really are very, very important. What is your favorite kind of music?
I have a very eclectic music collection. I enjoy country music. I enjoy folk music from all over the world. I enjoy jazz, classical. I love gospel music, especially when I don't listen to the words too closely. And I love ballads.
Do you have a good book you can recommend for our listeners?
Yes, 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
By Robert Greene?
Greene with 3 E's, yes.
Uh-huh.
One of the best books I've read. 48 Laws of Power. It looks at how power is used and abused all over the world and across the centuries. It is the most beautifully designed book. You could spend hours just reading reading and learning from the table of contents.
Wow. Okay. 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. I will definitely take a look at this.
I also recommend The Art of War by Sun Tzu for the same reason. Sun Tzu was an ancient Chinese warrior. It's called The Art of War, but it's also the art of life. These are books that have informed me. I have a new favorite, and that is Caste by Isabel Wilkerson.
Caste.
Mm-hmm. She talks about power and the abuse of power as it has been used to control and develop structures and systems to control the lives of people of color. She looks around the world, different caste systems, and the one sentence that struck me to my core was the best designed, legally discriminating system of race is found in the United States, and that both Hitler and those who created apartheid in South Africa looked to the United States as its model.
Yes, I've in other interviews, I've talked about how the South Africans in the day, the Vuvut days, how they came to the United States and studied our reservations that Native Americans were placed onto. And that's how they decided to create reserves. Mm-hmm. So now that's interesting that you say it's the United States, because I would have thought that India, with its caste system, would have been the worst.
It is certainly, it's right up there in the top 3, but United States is the worst.
We have so much work to do in this world.
We have so much work to do in this world. Absolutely.
And if everyone just does, one thing to improve and make things better on a consistent basis, you can chip away at it, one day at a time, a little bit at a time. I thank you so much, Kikanza Nuri-Robins, for being with me today on Womanocity for Women with Curiosity. You are one of the most curious women I know. And because of it, look at the opportunities that you've been presented and the gifts you've shared with the world, and especially with your friends like me, who are so grateful for knowing you and so happy to be sometimes a part of your salons when I'm in
You're in California.
Yes, so
when
from
you're in
Hawaii,
California.
I send you and my listeners all the aloha. And I want to thank you again, Kikanza Nuri-Robins, author of Fish Out of Water, a book worth also getting, along with her 3 favorites she shared with us today. Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much.
You are welcome. This is Tadia Rice signing off for Womanocity for Women with Curiosity on Woman Radio.
Certain kind of light that's never shone on me. I want my whole life to be lived with you. With you. There's a way. Everybody say to do every little thing. What good does it bring? In my brain, I see your face again, and I know my frame of mind. You don't have to be so blind. Oh, but I'm blind. Yes, I'm so blind. I'm a woman. Can you see what I am? I live and I breathe
somebody the way I